Welcome back to the Freelancer's Tea Break, the short and sweet podcast you can enjoy while you're making a cuppa. A couple of weeks ago in my Facebook group, I got an alert that it had been 10 years since I started my Facebook group, which, if you're new to the podcast, is called the Freelance Lifestylers. And it's one of my absolute favourite things that I do in my business, that Facebook group, because it's full of the loveliest, most supportive people. Generally UK-based freelancers, although we do have a few across the globe. And I thought it might be useful to share some of the things that I've learned in the last decade of running that group. It's not the first group I started. I started a local group, I think probably 12 years ago or so. I don't admin it anymore. Local groups are they're a different breed in terms of how different Facebook groups are run, and local ones are very interesting but very time consuming and a little bit more challenging. And I have to say, the Freelance Lifestylers group is really not that challenging to run, because it's very rare that I have to step in and admin or remove people, because everybody is very respectful. And hopefully some of the things I can share today will explain why that might be the case. So here are 10 things I've learned from running my Facebook community. So the first thing is, and this is what I say to everybody that's going to start a group, get very clear with your rules first. So when you create a Facebook group or when you join one, there'll be a set of rules there that you can keep them as the standard ones, or you can add in your own ones. Mine cover everything from what's acceptable, what's not, to what promotion days or when you can promote your own services. I also have one in there that might be a bit controversial, actually, but it's that essentially I ask people not to promote things that are a direct competition to what I offer. So coaching and resources for freelancers. And I felt very weird putting that in, but also this is a group that I spend a lot of time curating and looking after and making sure everything's going well in there. And it felt like a boundary that I could set, that boundary that I would rather someone didn't come into the group and piggyback kind of off directly what I do. I've got no problem with people promoting any other things within reason. But yes, the rules really, really help get everybody clear. It's kind of like terms and conditions for your Facebook group. It just helps everybody be very clear on what's to be expected, what's not. And also, if somebody doesn't like the rules, then they don't have to join. So that saves them time. But equally, if there's any problems or if I do have to flag anything, if you don't know this, when you remove a post in a Facebook group, you can tag one of the rules that may have broken, and it just gives them clarity, and you can add notes if you need to as well. So really clear rules make all the difference in a Facebook group, and there are things that you probably want to change over time. I probably need to review mine, actually, with it being 10 years. But yes, the number one thing, first of all, is get some clear rules and make it very clear to everybody. I've said clear a lot there, haven't I? Okay, number two is there is actually tech that can help. So I use a tool called Group Leads, which sits in my Chrome toolbar, and it means that when I get member requests to join the group, there are the 3 questions that you can set. So mine are, I'm trying to remember what mine are off the top of my head now. Are they a freelancer or hoping to be a freelancer? Do they want a copy of my 5 ways to find clients freebie? If they do, they can put their email address in. And I think the third one is, how did they find the group? Because that's really useful for me to see, especially if I suddenly have a flurry of people joining. If I can see it's from another group or an article mention, then that's something I can follow up and say thank you to that person for. So those rules, I can then, once I approve the person, it can send them a direct message just saying welcome, but also it adds them to the mailing list if they've happy to do so with them putting their email address in. So rather than me having to go and do all this manually, I just hit yes. You can set it up as well where it will do it automatically for you or decline people automatically, but I would rather be able to have a look through. It's not been smooth sailing. It does seem to need a little bit of tweaking every so often or reconnecting, but generally it does save me quite a lot of time, especially the adding the emails to the mailing list. So if you haven't, if you're doing something like that, I would really recommend Group Leads. And I think there is a free version as well, but I've got the paid version because I use it for another group I look after as well. I actually look after, I think, 4 groups, but most of them don't require very much work. And actually, that's probably something I should mention as well. One of the other groups I run is the Freelance Business Lounge one, which is my membership. So it's a much smaller group. And I'll talk about that in a minute about what works in the smaller groups and what works in the bigger groups. Because the Freelance Lifestylers has, I think, over 6,000, whereas the Business Lounge one, I think, has 30 or 40 in there. So they're very different experiences. But the next one I wanted to talk about is that from what I've seen, the people that get the most out of it are the ones that give the most. So the people that will go in and celebrate other people's wins, or if someone's asking for feedback, they'll jump in and give feedback, or they're just basically the ones that interact the most. The ones that just come in and promote, they do fine. It's good. It's great for like a search point of view. If people come in the group and they want someone who does something specifically, it's great to have your promotions in there. But the people that do best are the ones that turn up and interact regularly in a really authentic way, because those are the ones that people remember. And those are the ones that, even if they're not in the group at the time that something pops up that's relevant, other people will tag them because they've spent that time creating that network and those friendships and connections. So I would really recommend not joining loads and loads of groups, but joining a few groups and just taking the time to interact. And I know it's something we always say about LinkedIn, like LinkedIn or anything, or Instagram, but especially in Facebook groups, you can create some really lovely networks of people. So the next one is kind of a personal reflection, is that for a long, long time, I felt really weird about selling my own stuff in there. It felt very much like, um, I don't know, that I was taking advantage of my position as the founder of the group or the admin of the group, and I just felt really weird. And I still probably don't sell in there as much as other people who sell their groups. I didn't want to get to the point where, like, I don't want to go in there and sell daily. That doesn't feel right at all. But I now don't feel as bad if I do pop in there and share something. Largely also because most of the stuff that I create in mind with the Facebook group. Those are the people that I'm thinking of. What would help them, especially if I see something in the group that a lot of people are mentioning and they're struggling with, and I want to create something that helps them. So it feels more natural, but it's definitely been a learning curve that I can sell in there. And I think I'm finding a way that feels more comfortable to do that. So next one I want to talk about was Facebook groups Messenger chats, which I think has been going for a few years now. So I share 2 scenarios. So the first, in the business lounge, we have, I think, 6 or 7 different chats for different things. So we've got like a tech chat, an accountability chat. We've got more of a neurodivergent specific one for those in the group who are, and then a few other ones that are a lot more specific. Oh, and we've got delightful moments as well, where we just share lovely things that have happened. They're completely optional. Anybody can join them if they want to. Not all the members do, but there's a good chunk of them that do. And there's a nice little kind of feed throughout the day of people just checking in, sharing things. It's lovely. It really adds to the community feel. It works really well in that smaller group. It does not work well in a group with 6,000 members. And I've seen this with the other groups I'm in as well. The problem is when they rolled out Messenger for Facebook groups and people created a chat that people could optionally join, it was not clear that they were optionally joining. So it wasn't clear that if they clicked on it, that they had the option of joining. Sorry, I've repeated that, but it was really unclear. It sounded like people were adding all these people to all these different chats, and people were overwhelmed and angry and irritated. And it was just done pretty badly by Facebook. But I don't personally feel it works very well for larger groups. There's too much going on, there's too many people. Whereas for smaller groups, I think it works really well. So if that's something you're thinking about doing, I would generally Unless you can think of anything specific that would work, I wouldn't necessarily recommend using the Facebook group messenger chats for larger groups. If you've got a smaller group, definitely recommend that. And it's also great for things like, I think it works well for events. So, say you create an event in the group, the messenger chat that works with that would work really well because then you can keep people updated. And if people have little questions, or if when the event starts they can't get in, that's quite a handy one to keep an eye on. But generally, they're best for smaller groups. So, my sixth thing is you have a right to set boundaries in your group. And this is, again, very much a learning curve for me, but um, I think learning that what I will accept, and this is a group I've created. And for me, the most important thing is that it's a safe, kind, supportive group. And I've probably only had to remove a very less than 5 people from the group, I think, aside from like people who just joined and spammed and stuff, for being aggressive or unkind or um, not being aware of the tone that they were using. And as someone that works with a lot of people with autism and ADHD, I know sometimes tone can be a really difficult thing to tell. But equally, if somebody has been gently reminded about it and then they decide to carry on, that is a different issue. So for me, it's so, so important that people feel safe in that group. So I don't have any issues now with removing somebody or removing a conversation if it's something that makes other people feel unsafe. So you have a complete right to set boundaries in your group. And that kind of goes back as well to what I was saying earlier about me having that rule that somebody can't come in and um, promote something that is in direct competition to what I do. It's just, for me, the analogy I use is it's like going into someone's cafe and loudly shouting about your own cafe. Like, it just is a bit tacky. So that's basically where I sit with that one. So you have an absolute right to set the boundaries in your group. So I think it's worth thinking about what impact your boundaries will set. But I think the key thing is people feel safe in your group. Do they feel comfortable to post? Because that's the most important thing. Right. Seventh point is collaborating with other groups can be wonderful. So you don't have to be just running a group and being, to quote from About a Boy, I'm not going to quote because I can't quote it directly, but essentially, no man is an island, no Facebook group is an island, and it works really well to talk to other group owners and see if you can help each other out, see if there's some kind of swap that you can do, or anything you can do that can support both audiences. So it might be someone coming in and doing a guest slot from a different one. There's so many opportunities, and I think it's like most things in freelancing, it's not about competition, it's about collaboration. So, is there an opportunity to collaborate with others? Number 8 is that it's been absolutely brilliant for building my mailing list. It's not the main point of me having the group. The whole point of the group is I just always wanted to have a space where people felt comfortable to come in and ask any questions. But as a side bit, it definitely helps because when people join the mailing list through the Facebook group, they're already a bit more engaged. Um, and I would say, I don't actually have any percentages. I probably should look that up. But at least I'd say 60%, maybe 70% of people who join the group are happy to put their email list in. So it's a really lovely way to grow your mailing list. So if you haven't already put that in as one of the questions and you have a Facebook group, I'd highly recommend it. Um, yeah, that's all I've got to say on that one. It's been great for growing my mailing list. I should probably check the figures and stats at some point actually, because I think it probably brings in as much, if not more, at some periods, um, than some of my freebies. So number 9 is that Facebook works for me, but there are lots and lots of other community options now. So Suzanne Buckley, who is in one of my memberships, this is her area of expertise, that she looks at all the different options. I have to say, for me, I stuck with Facebook, and I have looked at other options. So I'm trying to think what we've got: Circle, Heartbeat. You've got Discord and Slack and things like that. And there are plenty that are paid ones as well. But for me, Facebook is the one with the least friction. So well, it's not the one with the least friction, but it's the easiest for me to use and for most people to use because they are already on Facebook. They're already using it. They don't have to. It's not like LinkedIn. Sometimes it takes effort sometimes for me to go on LinkedIn, whereas with Facebook, I'm naturally checking in there anyway. So Facebook is what works for me right now. But if you're looking at community options, I would have a look at all the different ones out there, not just Facebook. And I think the final point is just, I think I mentioned this at the start as well. It's one of my absolute favorite things in my business. I love it. It's such a wonderful group. And it genuinely is. The people in there, so many people have been in there for a long, long time, and everybody's so welcoming and supportive. And I think it's just the best example of the freelance community, in terms of how lovely everybody is. And it's so rare that anybody is ever unkind in there. And I'm on it straight away. And also, if anything ever comes up, there's a group of people who have been in there for a long time who are already on it, and they report it, and I'll get on it straight away. So if you ever have anything you're concerned about, please do drop me a message in there because I'm more than happy. And also, I'm always open to suggestions in that group. I'm always open to experiments and trying different things. So I am more than open to any suggestions if people have any ideas what they'd like to see in there. So I think that's some of the things. I think I mainly wanted to just share with you how how things have changed, what I've learnt, but also the difference between running big groups and small groups. Um, and I've run so many different ones. I've done pop-ups for some of the summits I've done. I've done live ones when I've done live versions of my groups. Um, but I think once you've got good boundaries, good rules, and a really solid, lovely group of people, and I think probably because I'm quite vulnerable in there as well and quite honest, but very much about kindness in there. Hopefully that's kind of set the standard as well. But I think those other things as well are part of the reason it is such a lovely group. So I hope that was useful. It's slightly longer today, but there were lots of things I wanted to share there. If you want to come join us, we're the Freelance Lifestylers. It's lovely because Mondays we share what our goals are for the week. Wednesdays, there's a little pitch slap Wednesday there to remind you to go out and do something to get your business out there. And Fridays, there is a promotion thread, but also that thread can be used to share your wins from the week or what you've learnt or anything like that. Yeah, so do come over and join us. It's a free group. And I hope you found this useful. Have a wonderful freelance week.